let's talk about what to do during the month of February out in the garden. What is up, YouTube friends? I'm so glad you're tuning in for this video today. As you can tell, I'm out in the garden. It is February the 1st. I can't even believe it. It seems like January took forever to get through. So I wanted to take today as an opportunity to walk through some of the to-do list items for the garden during the month of February. I hope you'll find this information useful. It is gorgeous out here today in the garden. I've been out here working, cleaning some beds, getting some soil on some of my raised beds, and just preparation. And that is the name of the game for the month of February, is preparation. So there's a lot of things to do, and a lot of people get comfortable with thinking spring and summer, but February really is a pivotal month in the success of your garden. So it is time to get it into gear, and I'm not just talking about seed starting, guys, because it's time for that too, but it is time to actually get out in the garden and get stuff done. So I've got a list of things that I'm going to recommend for you to do during the month of February, and this is not an original list. I've seen other YouTubers do similar lists to this. I know my agricultural extension office puts out lists similar to this, and so these are just things that I've picked from lists and seen, or things that I always do. And I wanted to share that with you so that you could have the opportunity to start thinking about it and getting your garden prepared so that your 2020 garden will be a huge success. So first off, February is a perfect time to compost. So whether you make your own compost or whether you go and buy a composted product, it doesn't matter. You do whatever is right for you in your garden. But February is really the month that you want to start spreading compost through your perennial beds and top dressing your vegetable beds. You have to feed the soil. The soil is going to start warming up over the next few weeks. We're going to get to spring. The plant roots are going to start going, and they're going to need food to get going. So you're going to want to feed your soil. And you can also, if you are not an organic gardener, you can put chemical fertilizers in your soil, but that just gives basic nutrients to plants. It doesn't really feed the soil. So compost during the month of February is a huge thing to do to get your garden off to a good start. The second thing on my list is mulch. It goes hand in hand with compost. February really is the month that you want to get a good layer of mulch throughout your entire garden, through all of your beds. Because what I just talked about with compost, things are starting to warm up, plants are starting to grow, your perennials are going to start putting on fresh growth. It is so much easier to go get a load of mulch now and get all your beds good and mulched. It'll keep that compost in, it'll help keep your soil moist, it will protect that soil that you're feeding, and then your plants, your perennials can come up through that. And then as you plant new things, you can just pull the mulch away, plant, and then put the mulch back. Really is so much easier to do it that way. I hopefully will go get a load of mulch next weekend and start mulching these beds to get that job done. All right, number 3 on my list is clean out your perennial beds. So if you still have plants that are sticking up, they haven't died back, or they have died back and you haven't trimmed them back, February is the month. You really want to get out here and get your perennial beds cleaned up. Now, I want to premise that by saying if you are in a climate that still has lots and lots of heavy cold weather, you may want to go ahead and leave yours. This February is really the southern gardener's month to cut back your perennials, because we don't really need that much old canopy left, old leaves and stuff to protect the crowns of our plants. So it's the time of the year where you want to get in there and get those perennial beds cleaned up. Start looking for weeds that have started to pop up, any acorns that have sprouted and trees are starting to grow. You're going to get all that pulled out of your beds. Really go through your beds and clean them up so that they are good to go. And obviously, I guess I should have done this before mulch. You really want to do that before you mulch so that you're not mulching on top of a mess. February for us in the South is also the month that we want to cut back our woody perennials and our ornamental grasses. So if you have woody ornamentals or woody perennials, a prime example is a butterfly bush, a buddleia. February is the month. You're going to want to go ahead and reduce that down to probably the first set of leaves on each branch that you see. So that will probably inevitably bring you down to about a foot off the ground. I mean, you use your own judgment. There are lots of good YouTube videos out there on how to prune butterfly bushes or buddleias. But it's the time, and there are other woody ornamental perennials out there as well, that now is the time you want to do them. Your ornamental grasses, if you have perennial ornamental grasses, it's time to clean those up. So you'll just bunch the grass up, tie it with a string, cut it off, and then you have that whole bunch of grass that you can then dispose of. It really is much easier to do it that way than just kind of whopping at the grass and letting it fall. So there's your little tip on perennial grasses, is take you some twine, bundle it up, tie it up, and then chop it off, and you're left with a good bundle of old dead grass that you can then throw away or add to the compost pile if you do your own compost. February is also the month that you want to get your soil tested. Most agricultural extension offices will test your soil for free or a nominal, very small amount. So gather up a soil sample from around your garden beds. And you may want to do vegetable bed testing separately from perennial bed testing, just because most gardeners tend to fidget and fuss with their vegetable bed soil much more frequently than they do with their perennial bed soils. So your perennial bed soils will usually test differently than your vegetable bed soils, depending on how much you fuss with the soil in those beds and add amendments to them. But now's the time to go around and get a sample of soil from around your garden, and you want to do a random sampling. So don't just go to one spot in the garden and dig up a cup of dirt and take it down there, because that's only going to tell you what the soil's like in that one spot. You want to do small scoops of soil from all around your beds, mix it together and take that, and then that will give you an average sampling of your soil, and then they can give you recommendations on what you need to do to get your soil as a whole around your garden fixed up. So get your soil testing done this month. As I stated earlier, February is also, for us here in the South anyway, and a lot of our northern friends too, it is the seed starting month. I know it's very exciting. We all tend to get into ordering seeds, and it's like Christmas when you open the mail and you have to plant these seeds. But it is time. It is time to get your seeds going. If you don't have greenhouses and stuff, you're just doing small seed starts in the house, February is right now is when you want to get started on your cold crops. So your brassicas, your cabbages, Brussels sprouts, broccolis, cauliflowers, peas can get started direct out into the garden right now. Kales, lettuces, all of those things can get started now, because they're going to get started before last frost date happens, as you know. And so you want to go ahead and start those now. And then in just a couple of weeks, towards the end of February, we'll go ahead and start our warm summer crop seeds. So all of your tomatoes, peppers, and all that stuff. So it's getting close to time for a lot of that stuff. And even our northern friends, you are usually a few weeks behind us. So while you may not want to run out and start a bunch of stuff right now today, it will happen during the month of February for you as well. So get yourself prepared. So as I've said earlier, February is the month of preparation for the garden, and one of the things that is so key is to get your tools ready. Sharpen your tools, clean your tools. If you oil wooden handles, get all of that done, because the worst thing is to not do that and get to April and May when everything is full on, get it in the ground, plant it, get your stuff, get it going, and you have dull tools, rusty tools, splintery handle tools, and it causes you a lot more stress than it would be now to clean them up. So go ahead and sharpen your shovels, sharpen your pruners, oil your wooden handles, clean up any rust, get your tools in working order to save yourself time and headache later in the growing season. All right, back to pruning. My next tip is that it is time to really think about pruning your shrubs and trees. Now, huge disclaimer here. If you are not familiar with how to prune shrubs, then please consult videos or Google it before you touch your shrubs. Because if you have flowering shrubs that flower on old wood and you prune them, you've lost your flower harvest. So you have to be very careful. A good example of that is a Hydrangea paniculata, an old standard hydrangea. If you prune those, you're gonna prune off every flower bud and you are not gonna have flowers. So, but if you have woody shrubs that don't flower, like japonicas, hollies, nandinas, the list goes on from there. Prune them now, get them sized up. If you have flowering shrubs that flower on new wood, go ahead and prune them up. And look at your trees as well. Most standard trees shouldn't need a whole bunch of pruning, but if you have any low-hanging branches or crisscross branches or anything like that, now's a good time. And then the other category of tree that it is a good time to prune right now are your fruit trees. So if you are a gardener who has fruit trees, again, southern gardeners, northern gardeners, you may not be there yet, but now is a great time to prune your fruit trees. Your trees are still dormant, so therefore the sap is not flowing, the cambium layer is not active, and your trees aren't going to weep very much. So it is a great time to get in there. You want to get all of your crisscross branches pruned out, any dead and dying branches pruned out, any branches that are going crazy wonky, and just to shape that fruit tree. And if you are a gardener who likes to top your fruit trees to keep the size control down for easy picking, now is the time you would do that as well. You don't have to top prune a fruit tree. If you're not comfortable doing it, then don't do it. But February is your month to do that. The next thing up on the list is it's also time to divide and transplant some of your perennials. So if you have perennials out in your flower beds that are getting a little too large, or maybe they're in the wrong spot and you want to move them this year, now's the time. Before their roots kick into gear, before their active growth kicks in for the year, get them dug up. Go ahead and move them, because what we're doing here is we are eliminating the transplant shock on the plant because they're still dormant. There's nothing to shock. But if you wait just 3 to 4 weeks, they're going to start growing and you're going to shock your plants. So now the soil is starting to warm. It should be easier to dig than it was a few weeks ago, and it's time to start doing that. So if you have big clumps, like daylily is a good example. Daylilies clump and expand. So it is now time, and hostas are a good one as well, where that original plant that you planted, it expands out. So you can dig that, cut it up, divide it up, separate it, transplant it out, move it around. Now's the time to get that done. The next one on my list, and it goes in the same vein of getting your tools ready, is get your gardening workspace ready. Get your potting benches cleaned up, your potting sheds cleaned up, the table in the garage you use, whatever you use, your area where you store your soils, your fertilizers, your compost, your whatever you have, get it cleaned up, get it organized, take inventory of what you have. All of your stores are carrying the products now. February is their month as well. So if you go to big box stores, Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, any of the other big guys out there, and your small garden centers, they're all getting their fresh shipments in. The shelves are stocked. It's time for you to stock your shelves as well. So go ahead and take inventory. Do you need more blood meal? Do you need more bone meal? Do you need more Miracle-Gro? Whatever it is you use, get it now. Get your area stocked. Get your containers washed, sterilized, and ready to go. Get your hand trowels washed, sterilized, and ready to go. Get your potting benches cleaned and sterilized so that you're not bringing any harmful things, pathogens from last year into your new stuff that you're bringing in. Now's the time. Get your areas ready so that when you go out shopping and bring home that carload of fresh perennials, plants, shrubs, flowers, trees that inevitably most gardeners will go out and find, you have a place to work, and it's clean and it's ready to go, and you won't have to take time to do that when you're already busy trying to get stuff in the ground. If you are a gardener who believes in using pre-emergent herbicides, now is also a time to do that. If you don't use pre-emergents, that's totally fine. I'm not advocating for it one way or the other. I personally have areas in my garden where I do use them, and I have areas in my garden where I don't use them. But if you are someone who uses the pre-emergents, now is the time to do it, and you preferably want to do it before you get that good mulch layer down. So get that where the seeds are going to be, where the weeds are going to start growing. So now is the time to start thinking about your pre-emergence to get that done. Well, guys, that's the end of my February to-do list. I hope you found something useful on that video. Maybe some things you hadn't quite thought about. Maybe you can get out there in the garden and get those done. If you have things that you always traditionally do in the month of February, or some things that I forgot to put on the list, drop them in the comments below. Let me know what you would add or what you do. And so maybe that will help other people as well out there who are watching this video trying to figure out what in the world they need to do for the month of February. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it has inspired you to get out, get going for the garden, get the growing season off on a good foot, and get prepared. That is the name of the game for the month of February. Guys, hit that thumbs up button. Let me know that you've liked this video. And if you want to support my channel, the best way for you to do that is to like and share the videos. If you know somebody that could use this information, share the video with them. That would be amazing. I'm always looking for more people to follow along on my journey. You never know where we're going to go or what we're going to get up to. So follow along, and we will see what we can come up with for future videos. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. But until next time, from my garden to yours, I wish you all the best and happy gardening.